Good evening, welcome to Scotland at 7 from Broadcasting Scotland. I'm Gordon Ross. In tonight's news, pro-Brexit peers in the House of Lords are seeking to thwart the progress of new legislation which would force Theresa May to seek a delay to Brexit to prevent a no deal on April the 12th. The cross-party bill passed through the House of Commons by a single vote late on Wednesday night. But the process of passing the European Union withdrawal bill got off to a rocky start. Some Conservative peers sparking fury by attempting to delay or even halt the process. As a result, Thursday's debate is expected to continue into the early hours of Friday morning. Peers are delivering long speeches designed to eat up debating time and to prevent the bill from completing the necessary stages in time, and a process. Forgive me, we're lacking a little bit more detail on that, but basically the Tory peers are trying to prevent the bill from making progress. In other news tonight, the Brexit European parliamentary elections are due to take place in May. The Constitutional Relations Secretary for the Scottish Government has written to Cabinet Office Minister David Lidington to urge the UK government to confirm that it will hold European Parliament elections. Mr. Russell says, I'm writing to you to reply to your letter of April the 1st to Bob Posner, the Chief Executive of the Electoral Commission, about contingency preparations for European Parliament elections. He went on to say that it would appear that the inevitable consequence of the Prime Minister's statement yesterday is that there will be a legal obligation on the UK government to take part in Parliament elections in the EU if they're to remain part of the European Union after the 22nd of May 2019. He goes on to say that, I know you have said about reimbursing reasonable spending for the preparations for a poll, but as you'll be aware, in order to hold a poll on Thursday, the 23rd of May 2019, the UK government must make the order formally setting the date as a poll. So I'd urge you to make it as soon as possible and to bring some order and some clarity to the situation to allow returning officers to plan with certainty. So there you hear there from Mike Russell that the Scottish Government is already making plans for the event of a no deal and taking part in the European parliamentary elections. In more news today, it also has become apparent today that Mrs. May and, sorry to say we got this slightly out of sequence here. As you know, Jeremy Corbyn and Mrs. May have met in the last 24 hours. In fact, the talks went on right through this morning and today. And it seems that both leaders have decided that these meetings are constructive, but no concrete proposals have yet emerged from all the deliberations. And in the meantime, while Mrs. May and Jeremy Corbyn are talking to one another, in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar has met with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel today in a meeting which is designed to prepare the Republic for any no-deal eventualities. Now, the German Chancellor, who arrived in Dublin today, was quoted as saying that she wanted to use her trip to Prime Minister Leo Varadkar to consider the border situation and how to prevent a no-deal hard Brexit. There have been many other reports today outlining what this meeting has thrown up. So I'll read you the latest from the Republic of Ireland after the meeting finally ended just about an hour ago. Britain, it says, could ask the European Union for a long Brexit delay next week if crisis talks between the Prime Minister, Mrs. May's government and the opposition Labour Party fail to find a way out of the impasse over the divorce from the European Union. But Brexit is now mired in doubt, and nearly 3 years since the United Kingdom shocked the world by voting 52% to 48% to leave the bloc. Supporters fear betrayal and opponents are pushing for another referendum. Mrs May, who's already delayed Brexit once, is now trying to find a way to get a divorce deal approved by courting opposition party leader Jeremy Corbyn, who wants to agree a much closer post-Brexit economic relationship with the EU. The important thing now is that any extension that we get from the EU, we must have absolute clarity that as soon as we have done the deal, we're able to bring that extension to an end, Finance Minister Philip Hammond told ITV today. When asked if he was comfortable about a long extension, he said he was not comfortable about it, but the defeat of Mrs May's deal on Friday, the very day that Britain was due to have left the European Union, meant that we are where we are. Jeremy Corbyn, a veteran socialist campaigner whom May had repeatedly derided as unfit for office, said on Wednesday that she had not moved far enough in talks, which continued at a lower level on Thursday. The Labour's Brexit point man, Keir Starmer, and Corbyn's chief of strategy, Seamus Milne, were seen entering the Cabinet office with May's Brexit Secretary Stephen Barclay on Thursday. May's de facto deputy, David Lidington, will also attend. Now, related to Brexit, we've just had this in, which is a Facebook scandal. The Facebook Brexit ads secretly run by the staff of Linton Crosby's firm. This is an exclusive. Grassroots groups which spent up to £1 million on targeted Facebook ads share an administrator who works for a lobbying firm. A series of hugely influential Facebook advertising campaigns that appear to be separate grassroots movement for a no-deal Brexit are secretly overseen by employees of Sir Linton Crosby's lobbying company and a former advisor to Boris Johnson, documents seen by The Guardian revealed today. The mysterious group, which have names such as Mainstream Network and Britain's Future, appear to be run independently by members of the public and give no hint that they are connected. But in reality, they share the same administrator who works for Crosby's CTF partners, and they've spent as much as £1 million promoting no-deal Brexit using sophisticated and targeted adverts. Okay. Now, there's more information on Facebook today, and although Facebook has substantially increased the level of transparency around its advertising in recent months, all that's required to run a campaign is a publicly named individual who is registered to a UK postal address or contact details for a public organisation. There is no disclosure around the campaign's financial backers and no UK law requiring financial transparency outside an election period. After the disclosure of the Mainstream Network site, similar adverts have been appearing on a Facebook page named Britain's Future, whose public frontman is the former 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps scriptwriter named Tim Dawson, who later became a Conservative council candidate. The group hit the headlines last month when it was revealed it was the biggest single UK political advertiser on Facebook. Okay, moving along now. Hundreds of millions of Facebook records have been exposed on public servers, according to a report published today. More than 540 million Facebook accounts were left exposed on public internet servers, cybersecurity researchers said on Wednesday, in just the latest security black eye for the company. Researchers from the firm UpGuard discovered 2 separate sets of Facebook user data on public Amazon cloud servers, the company detailed in a blog post. Now, these are yet more breaches of data regulations from Facebook, which is already in a great deal of trouble for not monitoring hate speech on its platforms. So again, Mark Zuckerberg's company getting dragged back into the limelight for something completely different this time, but still firefighting constantly with attacks on them from all directions for various security lapses. Now we're going to move on to, one second, we're going to move on to Brunei now. The Sultan of Brunei had announced today draconian new measures aimed at tightening up laws in Brunei. The headline which has caught everybody's attention today, is that those found guilty of gay sex can now be stoned to death. The same punishment can also be meted out to those found guilty of adultery. More on this in this short video. With Martin Hughes.
Martin Docherty-Hughes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I first of all thank the Minister for early sight of the statement and thank him and the Shadow Minister for their robust denunciation of the tactics now being taken by the Sultan and also by, I suppose, in some way by the government of Brunei in terms of the Sharia law and its implementation for a range of issues. And not just for LGBT issues. I've got to admit, as a gay man, it comes as no surprise to me that we live in a world in which members of my own identity are still either stoned, hung, murdered, clearly because of their having sex with someone of the same gender, and also for lesbian women who are to be stoned, to be whipped. But it's not just about LGBT issues. We have the amputation laws, in which is directed also at children who could be amputated. We need to be very much aware of this. I wonder if maybe the Minister will say something about that. We also have a range of issues around religious freedom, or the reduction of religious freedom in Brunei. So I think it would be beholden, it could not beholden me to stand here and say we cannot take some more robust action, especially in terms of the Commonwealth. And I know that the Shadow Minister did mention the Commonwealth, and the idea we're now into a moment where we have Commonwealth 2.0 rhetoric deployed by many in this place it should also not be missed. I think we also need to be clear that Brunei is just one of 35 states, Madam Deputy Speaker, within the Commonwealth where being either lesbian, gay, bisexual or transgender is illegal. Indeed, those states which do not criminalise their LGBT citizens are in the profound minority. And I'm sure it would come as no surprise, with having the largest LGBT number of members in their own political group in this place, that the Scottish National Party will be unbending in our support for the fundamental human rights as enshrined as we are at the moment as a member of the European Union, the European institutions. But let's be clear, Madam Deputy Speaker, while there are many in this chamber who may seek to return to days of laissez-faire economics and mercantilism as some sort of liberation, those of us on these benches will be looking very carefully at how the government deals with this through the institutions of the Commonwealth, which it claims great influence. And so I'd like to maybe then just ask the Minister for some direct questions. Can the government ensure it registers its strongest objections through the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth, that it considers asking for suspension in line with the suspension of Zimbabwe, as was mentioned by the Minister of the Opposition Shadow Minister, not expulsion but suspension until it gets its act together, and finally protect the rights of members of the armed forces who should not have to go, if they're members of the LGBT community, should not have to go to a place like Brunei, putting themselves at direct danger.
Okay, so there we have the case there being put against the moves of Brunei to introduce these draconian punishments for gay and lesbian people. Now on to a different subject now, and the Greens today at Holyrood have called on the First Minister to tackle Scotland's drug death crisis by addressing the lack of drug users' perceived opioid replacement therapy. Mr John Finney, who is the co-convener of Holyrood's cross-party group on drug and alcohol misuse, has highlighted the statistics from the Scottish Drugs Forum which show that only 35% of those who needed this treatment actually received it in Scotland, compared with 60% in England. Mr Finney went on to say that he welcomed the announcement of a new task force to tackle Scotland's drug death crisis. We should be able to hear from him now.
John Finney.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I thank the First Minister for her comments? She's aware of the clamour for action about this public health crisis. There's a clamour too, First Minister, from people with drug problems to get opiate replacement therapy. The figure at the moment is 35% in Scotland, it's 60% in England, and a third of the drug-related deaths in 2014, the individuals had no contact with drug treatment. Some issues, and I welcome the task force and its anticipated work, some issues can't wait. Well, the First Minister, as a matter of urgency, addressed an acceptably low percentage of people with drug problems in treatment and ensure optimum prescribing and support to tackle the unacceptable level of deaths.
First Minister.
I am happy to ensure that this is an issue that is looked at. I'm sure this is an issue that has been and is being looked at, that it may be something that the expert group wants to look at in the early stages of its work. Obviously, prescribing decisions are for clinicians to take based on the best interests and the needs of those that they're prescribing for. But the disparity that John Finney has just cited there in terms of opiate replacement prescribing rates is certainly something that I think in the full scope of this work should be looked at. My view on this is that nothing should be off the agenda here. This is a serious, complex, challenging issue. Some things that are already being done we know are effective. Other things are perhaps not effective, and there are things that are not currently being done that we have to open our minds to. And I think if everybody involved has that spirit, then here in Scotland, as we have done in so many other public health issues, can find a way of leading in the right direction on this, and that's what I hope we can achieve.
And that was Scotland's First Minister there replying to MSP John Finney, who had tabled a motion concerning the availability of drug replacement therapy for addicts. It may well be actually that part of the reason why many of the people who have died from drug overdoses in Scotland were not on this programme is perhaps because they never knew about it in the first place, and many of these drug users were very long-term, particularly heroin addicts, who tend to be very isolated in society and often die alone, having never come into contact with any health professionals at all. Obviously, this is something which needs to be addressed, and I believe that from the sound of the report we've just seen, that looks like it's now going to happen. And finally, this evening, the Commons sitting has been suspended this evening following a water leak in the ceiling. We hopefully will have a little video from the Commons showing what happened this evening after water started to pour through the ceiling during Commons session.
I'm going to suspend the sitting, and when we come back, the bells will ring 2 minutes before we restart. So the sitting is now suspended, and no photographs, please.
The gloomy, confiding the gloomy predictions of many, particularly in the British government, we can now say that Brent oil prices have risen to almost record levels, reaching over $69 a barrel today, pushing the $70 a barrel mark today, completely against, and this is a record level since, I believe, last November. So good news for Scotland's oil industry, and we hope this will continue into the future. That is about it for tonight. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night. I'll be back with Scotland at 7 next Thursday. Until then, from the whole team here at Broadcasting Scotland, good night.